to the inaugural episode of Marvel at the Movies. We are so excited to do this. I'm Doug. We have Kyle here. Kyle, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited. I'm kind of jittery right now. This is really cool.
Yes, very cool. We just had a very long pre-game, which is all good, and little pre-production kind of, talking about Marvel and what we're going to talk about. So this show is basically kind of wrapped around a couple of things. The first part is we're going to talk Marvel movies, and I'll tell you, there is a huge following out there for Marvel movies, and I guess I can say I'm one of them. So yeah, I guess I can say I'm definitely one of them. So it's just one of those crazy situations. Our daughter got us into it. My wife and I are watching the movies, and I'm very excited about this particular show because, first of all, Kyle is a huge Marvel fan, and then
superhero fan in general, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk part Marvel. And then we're going to kind of relate some of the Marvel stuff to movies. And then we're going to talk about movies that we love. We have so much stuff that we're going to do in the coming episodes. We're very excited. We're working on some different things. We're going to try to invite some guests on that are Marvel people. We're gonna
some that aren't, and just want to.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have a movie review soon too. So that's going to be so fabulous. And we're so looking forward to this. But today's episode, Kyle,
yes,
today's episode of Marvel at the Movies is brought to you by Zyman Organizing. You guys feeling overwhelmed with a room, cabinet, or drawer that needs to be organized? Contact Zyman Organizing. They will work with you to create and organize a space that is serene and a joy to spend time in. So Zyman Organizing, create a stress-free home. That is our sponsor for this particular show. So nice. Kyle, let's just jump right in. And I will tell you that I started out, my daughter kind of hooked me. And the way she hooked me was I watched the first two movies that are kind of related and kind of unrelated. And you can give me some more background on this too. And the first two movies that I watched was obviously the Galaxy movies, movies 1 and 2. And I just absolutely fell for it. I'm like a Marvel fiend right now. I don't think about it 24 hours a day, but I do. I am a fiend. So Kyle, tell me what your first impressions are when you first watch those couple.
For the Guardians, you mean?
Yeah, the Guardians. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah.
So I enjoyed them actually. I think if I had to choose, I definitely prefer the first one over the second one. But they're both really, they're both a lot of fun. Actually, fun fact, I just read online the other day, apparently Steven Spielberg is a huge fan of the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I always thought he was like a fan of the older movies, like the old Superman and Batman movies. But no, he actually he said apparently he was blown away by when he saw Guardians of the Galaxy. And honestly, yeah, when I first saw it too, I was impressed at how Marvel was able to take these characters that no one knows about. Like, they're not Spider-Man, they're not Batman, Batman's DC obviously, but
right, exactly, yeah.
But none of them are on that level of like fame. But like, they were able to make a really enjoyable movie with a really engaging story. Actually,
right.
Like, I was very impressed. I didn't think they could pull it off, and this was a little earlier in the stages of Marvel, because I think the first one came out back in 2014, but no, it was fun, and I think it's a good, it's a solid kind of sci-fi action movie, especially if you like kind of more like the newer Star Trek movies. It's kind of a little more in that style, I feel like. So
right, exactly. I thought yeah, I do kind of agree with you. I think that you said you like the first one better than the second one. I think that the first one's kind of like the first Star Trek. that you see, the first Star Trek movie that you see, or the first Star Wars movie that you see. And that totally makes sense. What I like is that you're introducing these characters, and these characters are they're not. You're right. It's not Spider-Man. It's not Superman. It's not Iron Man. It's not any of those guys. It is, it's like this rat that talks, and he's pretty funny, and like, I mean, it's his tree stump, who I love. I love the tree. His name's Groot. I love Groot. I am Groot. And my daughter and I and my wife talk about this all the time, is that's kind of the introduction to, I guess to getting maybe the base of what these movies are going to look like, as opposed to content. Because I don't think, and you being more of an expert than I am, are those movies related or unrelated? I think they're more unrelated to Marvel. They're kind of they're the beginning of looking at what Marvel, about what these Marvel movies are going to be all about in the future. And that's just my feeling. I don't know. Maybe it's the content it does a little bit on the content, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
The
just the Galaxy movies, like, obviously they don't have Iron Man, they don't have this, they don't have that. These are almost like separated movies, but I think what they do is they introduce you to what these Marvel movies are going to be like. In other words, when you see Star Trek, Star Trek's whole thing is about going to undiscovered countries, right? Undiscovered planets, and going into different galaxies and stuff like that. Their first episode, either on TV or even in the movie, gives you an idea of what the next movies are going to be like. There's a lot of shooting. There's a bad guy. There's somebody that you have to that there's good guys and bad guys, and actually I should say creatures. And there is, the plot is, I guess plot is what I'm really talking about. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's a little different?
Oh no, 100%. I 100% agree with that, because so before the Guardian series, most of the Marvel movies, aside from Thor, and I'll get to that in a second, most of the Marvel movies were pretty much took place on Earth. Iron Man, Captain America, they were all a little more grounded, no pun intended, because literally they were more on the ground than in space.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But the kind of the really nice thing about the Guardians movies is that they kind of went to where Thor kind of after the Iron Man, Captain America movies came out, and even like the original Hulk with the technically the second Hulk, the Edward Norton movie, all those movies were on Earth.
Right.
But when Thor came out, they started to kind of like introduce new places in the universe. But the thing about the Thor movies too is they were also kind of a little more landlocked. Like, part of it took place on Asgard, especially in the first two movies. Other parts, like, that you saw some frost giants here, and they kind of went to other realms. But Guardians actually, right.
Thor is from that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool though. But yeah, I mean the bridge, all that kind of stuff. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah. I definitely thought I definitely totally agree, and I think that I think what it does is it gives you what the plots are going to be, kind of what the movie's going to be all about. There are good guys, bad guys. There are let's get all together, let's that kind of thing.
And everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're really two exactly. I think that when you see those two movies, those are like introductory movies, and I think those were great in the fact that they were introducing kind of what the plot's going to be. But when you finally get to Captain America, right? Finally, when I got to Captain America, everything started to make a little bit more sense, because there's more content, I think, and Captain America and what the first one and what and in seeing how Captain America was, by the way, very funny, how Captain America was made. Not made as in the movie, made as in how he was this little scrawny little, I don't know how he got into the military. Then he comes out, goes in the machine, and all of a sudden and there's a lot more that's to it. And I don't want to, if nobody's seen it, I don't want to tell too much, but it's one of those things where that's kind of the starter for me. Did it start that way for you? I mean, that's kind of where it started.
So what a little bit, yeah. So
yeah,
the movie that really kind of I think Iron Man was actually the and that wasn't actually the first movie chronologically that came out in the series. That movie was the real big one that kind of like, it was the first Marvel movie that really kind of opened the door for this entire universe. So, you know, like you were talking about, like Guardians kind of introduced the whole space aspect of it. They got to different planets and stuff like that. But Iron Man actually was the first movie, I thought, that kind of introduced the whole shared universe aspect. Now Marvel kind of did that a little bit, like back in the Lou Ferrigno days. You know, they actually had there's a really cool documentary on YouTube if you check it out. I think it's actually on the IGN channel. They actually talk about the whole Lou Ferrigno universe. Like,
is that the Game Network?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, IGN Game Network. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great documentary. It's only about half an hour. It's actually not too long, but they break down that whole kind of like era of the Hulk, and like how they kind of tried to start like a Marvel shared TV universe where they had, like, you know, because he ran for I think like about 4 or 5 seasons, and then they did actually 3. I want to say it was about 3 TV movies where they introduced actually Thor, and they also introduced Daredevil in one of them, which was just like, whoa, it was great. Like oh my god, especially so I hadn't seen the Thor one, but the Daredevil one I actually really enjoyed a lot. It's a really fun movie, much more campy than the movies we're seeing nowadays. But like so basically going back to my point though, so that was kind of like the first like sort of attempt at a shared universe. And then what Iron Man did, which was really cool, was it was one of the first like end credit scenes where they actually introduced Samuel Jackson, and he becomes like a major player in the whole universe. He becomes like the leader, the head of the Avengers Initiative. Sorry, I'm if you guys haven't seen those movies, I don't want to spoil.
No, I mean that this is what the show's all about. It's all about talking about it. It's just like having those spoilers out there. So if you haven't seen the movies, please keep watching our program, keep watching our channel, but just know that we're gonna talk about them. So that's just what it is.
Just the nature.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was cool because like once we saw him, and he's a major character. His name is Nick Fury, and like he's a big character from the comics. People's jaws hit the ground. They're like, wait, they're literally going to try to do this in movie form, which, you know, we've seen in like the Universal Monsters movies and stuff like that. We've seen like a movie shared universe, but not in the way Marvel's done it. Like they have just expanded so much and have just like, they've gone in different corners of the galaxy, different realms, like in Thor. Like it's just been amazing. Like you gotta like commend them for just this huge like just undertaking and just like really nailing it.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, Kyle. They've actually the movies are spectacular. They've taken things to a totally new level. Now, when I started watching this kind of thing was Saturday morning cartoons. I watched the Justice League, you know, as a you know, kind of like, you know, Saturday morning cartoon, and it was Aquaman and Batman and
the Super Friends,
Super Friends, Friends, not just Justice League. That's a movie. See, I'm on movies already. I'm on movies already. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Super Friends,
and that's right. There is a cartoon of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I started watching Saturday morning cartoon, and that's how I got into it. So I know some of these, and of course, you know, in the '90s there was the other series, but we'll get into that a little bit in our second segment about movies. But when it comes down to it, Marvel has just taken this to a totally different level. The writing. The writing is spectacular. I mean, They do such a great job. There's a lot of funny scenes. You know, we just finished Thor Ragnarok, which was the funniest one that I've seen so far. Now the other ones, like Spider-Man, was actually funny. You know, yeah, Spider-Man was funny at times, but like Thor Ragnarok was funny like the whole movie. So that was just. I mean, the writing is spectacular. That the special effects.
Mm-hmm.
I just it makes sense because special effects that they can do now is all computerized. They can pretty much do whatever they want. You know, in a lot of cases, you know, I know there's stuntman and stuff like that, but in a lot of cases they can generate something on the computer and be able to move that character around the computer and be able to, you know, watch him over a ledge and stuff like that because they could. So nowadays it's not, and I'm not saying they don't do their own stunts or they don't do stunts. I'm just saying that there's a lot more technology that goes into the when the what was this? And you're gonna have to tell me because again, I've watched these movies and I haven't watched all of them. What was the one where the city was starting to kind of crumble and break and stuff like that, and they were trying to stop it?
Age of Ultron.
Yeah. That's what it is. Yes. So that city starting to rise up and then crumbling down. That was incredible the way they did that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was like unreal. Well, what was the first kind of, and I think I know the answer to this question because we talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to write it down and I'm going to tell you whether I'm right or not. What was your first either Marvel or superhero? Or did you start out with the comics or did you start out watching? I think I have an idea of when you started watching, but I'm not sure. When did you start doing that and what was it?
So like the first like movie I've ever watched or
Movie, comic, whatever you can mention both. Fine.
all right. So the earliest memory I have, so I have always been a Superman fan. And I always like
I was right.
yeah.
I was right. I was right.
And if you guys can see my name, I actually wrote Kai L. So that's that's how much of a fan I am. I
Yes.
kind of die hard. I watched.
Noticed that. That's awesome.
I've watched everything, pretty much every Superman related thing like that's ever been out, good and bad. I've seen pretty much most of it.
So Kyle, you talk about the movies or the first series? You talk about the TV series or both?
So the first series I watched, so I'm going to talk about both actually, because it kind of one led into the other in a way. Yeah. So the first series I watched was the original, I think it was like the 1930, it was like the 1940s Max Fleischer cartoons. It was like back when Superman didn't even fly. Like he would literally leap over tall buildings. Like, and the reason why they say that, leap over tall buildings in a single bound, is because he literally couldn't fly. This was before all that happened.
He could jump, but he couldn't fly.
Exactly. So I would watch those cartoons. Like I remember having the VHSs. Like when I was a kid, I just popped in the old player there, and I used to like stuff my face with powdered donuts.
I still have one, by the way. So if you got those old ones, you can watch.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Those
I still have a Sony VHS, so I should maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I do have one.
No,
I have other stuff, but that's part of my my thing.
Dude, I respect that. No, that's
David said it.
I actually have a TV combination TV VHS player that I've actually been meaning to bring down at some point. So
that's even better.
And it's a Panasonic too, so it's like a really good quality. Still works. It's from probably like the 80s or 90s, but it's still
fabulous.
And so basically, yeah, after watching the Max Fleischer cartoons, I was so into Superman. Like, and then my parents had gotten me the VHSs of the Christopher Reeve movies, so I had gotten to watch Superman the movie. And let me tell you something. That is not only my favorite superhero movie of all time, but it actually quite might possibly be my favorite movie, just single movie of all time, because yeah,
Really?
like, and I stand by that. After all the movies that came out, I don't know. There's just something about that movie. I saw that movie when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and it just blew me away as a kid. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie that just impressed me that much. Just and granted, there's a lot of great movies out there, you know, and I understand. I know you guys are gonna tell me like, what about The Godfather, Kyle? What about Goodfellas? What about uh, all these other great classics?
Yeah. Hey, listen, we'll talk about it in the next segment. But these, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, you guys.
as far as I'm concerned, I think the Superman series, the movies,
Mhm.
are classics.
Yeah.
They have to be classics. I
Mhm.
mean, Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve. I mean, these are stars of the day.
Yeah.
These are people like you'd see today. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, are they at a certain level? I guess so. I mean, when Superman, and I watched those too. Again, I started with the Super Friends,
Yeah.
and then in the, I think, late '80s, maybe mid '80s is when they started with the Superman stuff.
78 was like
Um,
the first one that came out.
yeah, okay,
Sorry.
so late '70s. I watched those. Gene Hackman.
Oh, so,
I mean, really. I mean, talk about the earliest of Marvel. Earliest of Marvel
hmm
wasn't even really called Marvel back then at all, because obviously it wasn't. It's totally kind of different, but kind of the same. It's superhero versus bad guy, and that's what it is. I watched, and I know you did too, The Incredible Hulk on TV.
yeah.
So already introduced to David Banner a long time ago, and you know that's part of grabbing somebody like me, who's a little bit older, not too much, a little bit older, is the fact that some of these Marvel characters were characters that I grew up with. I
hmm
mean, Lou Ferrigno, you
Oh,
know,
great.
playing, yeah, playing on the TV series. I mean, it's in the '70s, and I was a TV watcher. That's just what it was. I
Yeah.
watch movies and I watch TV, so it's just that's how I grew up.
hmm
But with the Marvel, so that's how you started with the Superman series.
Yep.
What did you watch after the Superman series?
So, well, it's funny because I kind of like went right, kind of like in somewhat chronological order. So I started with the Christopher Reeve movies.
Right.
I loved all of them, especially the first one. Yeah, obviously, yeah, you heard my whole spiel about the first one. Um, but um, then I actually jumped to Batman. So I ended up watching I think it started with, I'm trying to remember if I had started with the animated series first, because they had an animated series that came out like in the early '90s.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think I started a little bit with that on TV, and then I actually jumped into some of the movies. So I think the first actually Batman movie I saw, I remember actually very very vividly going to the theater with my dad. He took me to see Batman and Robin, the one with George Clooney and George Clooney,
Oh, right.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Freeze. Oh, come on, let me play chill, like that. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
great movie. It's not technically a great movie, but it's enjoyable.
I guess for some people it can be. I mean,
Yeah.
I think for some classic on that. I started out doing that too. So I watched the Superman. I watched Super Friends first.
Yeah.
Then I watched the Superman series, obviously, and then it kind of turned to Batman, but
Mhm.
then it turned to other things too.
Yeah.
But that was my first recollection of knowing those guys were really when I was young watching the Super Friends Saturday mornings.
Mhm.
That's how it started. But they've taken the Super Friends and they've taken this particular Marvel. Marvel is like Lucasfilms.
Yes.
To me, which means that Marvel has taken these movies and they've grabbed a whole segment of the population
Mhm.
world and they've been like, okay, this is what's coming out. This is what's coming out next. And it doesn't matter whether it relates directly to the rest of the Marvel movies, or if it's just, we're going to introduce this character to you. We're going to tell you how she came about.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to see her down the road in a Marvel. So it's just the writing and the way they set it up is absolutely brilliant. And I guess it does kind of come from Stan Lee, and I guess we should kind of touch upon him for a few minutes, and then we'll go to our next segment. But I love watching these and looking for Stan. Where is Stan going to be? Because you know that, and obviously, unfortunately, Stan has passed away. But unfortunately. But for the movies that he did the cameos in, always looking for where Stan is. And it's like, oh, there he is. Hey, Stan, how you doing? It's just awesome. And I just thought that the way he put things together, even if it was comic wise, and I will tell you honestly, I've seen the movies. I wasn't really into comics growing up, so I didn't. Yeah. I didn't really get into them as much as I was watching TV and movies and stuff like that, and that's.
Comics are a lot to keep track of, it's like there's so many issues, there's so many different storylines and alternate storylines, and you're just like,
exactly, wow, exactly. So what did you think of the Stan Lee kind of influence to these kinds of movies, and what did you think about him doing the cameos?
Oh, I loved all of it. The coolest part I thought about Stan Lee is actually he's been doing these cameos even before the MCU started. Like he's been like his very first cameo that I think I can remember was I think it was in actually the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that came out in 2002. This is way before like the MCU was even a thing, and there was this funny scene of like, or not funny, but like there was this cool scene of him like Spider-Man fighting the Green Goblin, debris flying everywhere. And Stan Lee, the first cameo that I saw him in, he just like he pushed someone out of the way before the debris hit them, which I thought was really cool. So he actually saved someone in those original movies, and I always respected that, and I'm glad that the movies really took the time to just make a really, really fun cameo for him in each movie that he was in. So
absolutely, and again, we look for him, and we just love his cameos because most of them are super fun. I mean, he's just in something or around something, or it's just great. It's just great to see that he's in there, and obviously with the movies that were made, after he passed away, obviously I'm hoping they put somebody else there. They probably won't, but again, his cameos have been.
No, maybe not him.
Yeah, his cameos have been great, and I don't know whether they've decided to have some kind of replacement to Stan, but I'm not sure. I think they should stop doing it just because it's like his thing, and it would be really disappointing to see somebody else do a cameo when he's supposed to be there. So
lightning can't strike twice deals. I don't think they're gonna.
No, and I agree with that. Some things you just have that's pure, and some things you just have to say, okay, it's just not worth doing over. And you and I had this conversation, a few weeks ago when we first started to plan this show was, talking about movies that just should not have happened. That why are you making a sequel to this movie that is just now the progression of Marvel, the new movies that are coming out and the progression of Marvel, those are fine. These aren't sequels per se. These are a continuation of a story.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about a sequel that goes on and does the same story, the same thing over and over and over and over again. And, just for instance, Friday the 13th. Okay. For a fact that there's going to be a whole bunch of teenagers. They're going to be at this camp in a whole bunch of cabins, and this guy with a mask on, this hockey mask from 1939, because they don't use those masks anymore. But hockey mask, he's going to go around. He's going to kill all these people except for two of them. Okay, they made, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them, and it's the same plot every time.
More than that,
you know what's going to happen. And then you're at the theater. If you're at the theater, you watch it on TV. You're like, okay, you might want to go into that cabin because you know who's in there. Jason's in there. Don't go into the cabin because Jason's there. And then you talk, you find yourself talking on the screen. You know, it's like Friday the 13th part 64. The same exact plot each time. What Marvel does is totally different. Marvel does is that you kind of know that there's going to be a bad guy and a good guy, or good guys.
Yeah.
Bad guy. But you have no clue what's going to happen. No clue. Because it's different. That's the only thing you know is a constant. Is it this good and this bad? Now you got to figure out how the good are going to defeat the bad. But it's different every time. But it's not just that. It's also developing a forward story to go to the next movie. Friday the 13th never did that. It never did that because it was always the same plot each time. There was no, Jason, they killed Jason. Okay, well, you know that there's a new movie coming out. They obviously didn't kill Jason. And then one movie was his mother.
Yeah.
It was just like crazy. So that's what I think that the difference between Marvel and the Marvel continuations, I call them, as opposed to sequels that should just not have been done. Just not something that should have happened. Star Trek, the movies is one after the other.
Yeah.
Generations, Search for Spock. I'm not doing it in the order of obviously. Star Trek the movie starts it. So those are all heading in a certain direction. Star Wars, same thing. Great sequels, great prequels too. And the fact is that you really should see the movies that came out in the 80s before you see the prequels, because then you're like, oh, that's where Luke Skywalker got that. I get that now. Because when you could do it the other way around, but then you're like, Luke Skywalker, who? Luke Skywalker,
and also it ruins the best twist of the original trilogy. If you go into the prequels, it's gonna spoil. You're gonna, oh god, like, because you want to go into Star Wars, like, especially if you hadn't seen the movie, or maybe you're like a parent that wants to show Star Wars to your kids for the first time.
We're trying to do that with my daughter. Yes, we're trying to do that now. Yeah.
There you go. So it's like, you don't want to just like jump into the prequels, because then you're going to know the big twist in the original trilogy. And
yes,
it's nice to just start with the original trilogy. Then you get kind of a sense of you already have a sense of what's going on. The original trilogy explains just as enough as it, just as it needs to explain. And what's great is the prequels are great to watch after, because it develops it even further. So,
right. You get more of the background story. You get more of where Luke got his power from. You get more of where does Luke, how did Luke start this? Luke started this by driving those little things when he was about 6 or 7. So driving those, what is it called?
Land speeder.
Yeah, land speeder. So again, you get that, you totally get that information. Back to the Future, also a very good series of movies that seems to and they're classics. We love those. They seem to be, you kind of know they're going back to the future, but you have no idea where to go. And you know what? The third one blew me away. They're going back to the West. Where did that? But it also comes back. It goes so far back that it's before his neighborhood was even made. It was before the town was even made. So it relates. One movie relates to the other movie, and that's what Marvel does. Is that it always relates to another movie in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's making them a success, and that's why people will see them. The Friday the 13th, the Halloweens, it's the same.
Yeah.
The worst ever movie that I can tell you about, the worst ever movie is Jason versus
Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy, right?
You're gonna say
Freddy Krueger?
His face.
Yeah, it's
which is also a real movie. Yeah.
Why are we putting two movies together? Why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's horrible to be able to put these two movies together and think that there's going to be. I mean, what is Jason dreaming now? I mean, this is. I just don't. It just in my mind. I see, Kyle. What happens is that I like thinkers. I like thinker movies. Mm-hmm. One of the scariest movies I ever saw when I was 12 years old is a thinker movie. Stephen King wrote the book, and then it was derived into a movie. Shining. Scariest movie that I have seen when I was 12 years old. I went with my father and my brother, my older brother, in the movie theater. I was scared crapless. Mm-hmm. I was going like this the whole time.
Yeah.
It was scary.
It's a good
but
movie.
It makes you think. It's a thinker, especially the end. The end, you're like, what? And then it ends, and you walk out of the movie theater going, I mean, obviously I've seen it about, it's my favorite. I'm not a big scary movie guy, but that's my favorite scary movie if I'm going to watch one. I've seen it about, 40 billion times since then. Unbelievable. I walk going, I like, what? What? Did that just happen? Now, the book is very different than the movie itself. And a lot of that happens. Yeah, that happens a lot. Now, let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Have you read the comics to some of these? Have you read, some of the comic books? Are the comic books kind of, are they related to the Marvel movies? Are they totally opposite? The Marvel movies are made kind of separately from the actual comics.
That's a good question. So growing up, the Marvel comics I read were actually, I read a lot of X-Men. I was a big X-Men fan too. That was
right. Again, I didn't get into comics, but I knew that they were out there.
Yeah. And they always had some really good stories. I didn't really follow the series. I was always kind of more of a one-off type of person when it came to comics. I would just kind of read a random issue here and there. I never really followed series specifically, but I would read enough to kind of get an idea of what the characters are and the heroes and the villains and everything. And I gotta say, from what I've seen, and even some of the stuff from what I've read recently, the Marvel movies, for the most part, I would say are pretty comics accurate. They do follow certain things from the comics, but excuse me. At the same time, though, they translate it kind of into movie form. So
I got
you. The thing is, so for example, okay, I'm gonna go with Civil War. You've seen that one, right? Captain America: Civil War. What?
Wait. Yeah, I think. Wait, hold on. Let me check my list here.
I was like, wait a second. Oh,
sorry. No. Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That was
yes, because I'm on. I just finished Thor Ragnarok, so yes, I've watched that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going in order, so yes, I've watched that.
Okay. That's
I had to check my daughter's list. So yes.
I was like, that's a big movie. You have to watch that if you're going to dive into the MCU.
Yeah. That tells a lot, actually. That explains a lot too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's how everything kind of is and everything. But so for example, so Civil War was also an event in the comic book, but it played out pretty differently actually. You'd be surprised actually how different the comic book version is. The setup is kind of similar. But
now, Civil War is where. So I just want to remind myself, Civil War is when there is, I guess you could say, a sad event, but it turns out that the sad event didn't really happen. I guess sad event on the train. Remember on the train, Captain America's friend.
Oh, you're thinking that's the first one. So Civil
Oh, okay,
War,
that's the first
that's
one.
the third one. So that's like it's kind of like a little bit of an Avengers movie in a way. So
Right,
it's basically Captain America versus Iron Man. So that happens in the comics as
right,
well.
right.
Yeah, I know it's confusing to keep track of all the
And
titles.
I try to, and again, I've only watched them once, and my daughter's watched them like I don't know, 40 times or whatever. At least 2 to 3 times for each movie. So
Yeah, that's all right.
she knows them like the back of her hand, and I kind of I know them. If you say it, I might get confused. But go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, so the difference between the comic book Civil War and the movie is that because so the comic was a huge event and they had all these different series leading up to it, and the thing is the X-Men were involved in the comic, I believe, and like Spider-Man had a much bigger role because they were able to build up his character more, because in the movies they didn't have all these characters in the MCU. They didn't have the rights to actually the X-Men or Spider-Man. In fact, actually when Civil War came out, they literally had just gotten the okay from Sony to let Spider-Man into their movies, because what happened was, just quick little history thing. Marvel almost went bankrupt. I believe it was like in the late '80s and early '90s. This was back when Marvel was like, they were just not doing very well. The movies were awful. Like DC was the king when it came to like the 80s and 90s. DC knew how to make like really good superhero movies. Marvel, they were really struggling at the time. So what happened was, and the comics apparently were also very much struggling. So Stan Lee, he sold off his properties to different movie studios. That's why for a while Fox owned the X-Men. Sony had Spider-Man, and they even had Ghost Rider for a bit. I got Ghost Rider right back there, as you can see, because it's one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies.
Yeah,
the second one specifically, actually. So good. Nicholas,
I'm marking that down, Kyle.
we'll talk about that one in another episode, because
that's fine. It's a whole other galaxy on that. I got you. I got you.
That'll be in the unpopular opinion rabbit hole in my case.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so basically, the Civil War comic had all these different characters that didn't show up. Even like I think the Punisher was in it, which that didn't happen in the movie. The movie, they had to tell the story in one movie in like a matter of like 2.5 hours. The comic had all this build up and everything. So the basic idea was there, that the movies had Captain America versus Iron Man. There you go, Civil War. So that basic idea was there, but the way they translated it was just very different. Things played out very differently, actually, and even the ending is like completely different. They got some really cool images. Like the directors did a great job. The Russo brothers, they're my favorite directors for Marvel. Just throwing it out there. I think they make the best Marvel movies by far. And especially, I think I'm curious to see what you think of also the next two Avengers, because they directed that. They directed Infinity War and Endgame, and to me, those are just two of the best. Like, you don't really get much better than those movies.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm looking forward to both of them, actually. So
good. And so Civil War. So just a quick spoiler alert. Just to warn you guys from the comic version, Captain America dies at the end. Like, that's how different it is.
Right. I guess it is different that way, right?
Yeah, because if you think about it, that was the big event they were building up to. Whereas in the movies, Civil War happened. It was a big event, but that's not what they were ultimately building up to. Civil War, like the movies were, that you could tell that they're really building up to like the Gauntlet and Thanos, and he's the big bad that you're going to find out. And they have been hinting at him throughout the other movies.
Yes, you should see my daughter walking around about Thanos. Oh my God, she gets so off.
Yeah.
Honey, he's.
You what?
He's a character. He's a character. And he's just so pissed off. I hate Thanos. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it looks like I'm going to be introduced to Thanos probably this weekend, I think. We're going to.
Yeah. And talk about dynamic villains.
We were already introduced.
Yeah.
It was in another movie that we already saw, but it was brief.
Oh, yeah. Well, so the cool thing about the thing I like about the Infinity movies, that I'm not going to try to spoil too much, but what they do with Thanos specifically too. I've never been the biggest fan of the villains in the Marvel movie, in a lot of the villains in the Marvel movies, because I always thought they focused. Personally, this is just my opinion. I always thought like they focus a little too much. Like they focus a lot on the heroes, but the villains kind of to me like they take a back seat in a lot of those one-off movies, especially. Like, can you remember the villain from Doctor Strange? I can't. Can you remember the movie from the villain from Thor 2? Like, I can't. I'm sorry. They didn't leave any.
I don't. The only villains I remember are the ones that are popular, that they're getting these actors, these older actors who are popular.
Yeah.
When I was growing up and watching movies, and they're getting these actors and they're putting them as villains, which is great. I mean, you and I talked about Spider-Man, Homecoming.
Oh yeah.
We talked about that. We talked about, and you said, I think Michael Keaton is the movie because he's the villain. And I grew up watching Michael Keaton and Mr. Mom and Gung Ho and those kinds of things. So when I look at Thor Ragnarok, you got Jeff Goldblum. You know, Jeff Goldblum was in The Fly. In I think in the early 90s. And he was also on an episode or two of Glee. And he was also in Jurassic Park too. One of the Jurassic Park. Yeah, one of the Jurassic Park.
Was it Ian McDonald?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then you have Michael Douglas in Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
So you have him. He was in Wall Street. He's also on a new. It's not new. It's a couple years old, but the Kominsky Method on Netflix, which is got a new season, and I haven't got a chance to watch it because I'm watching all these Marvel movies. But the Kominsky Method is supposed to be really good. Has a great cast in it. Yeah, it's about acting. He's an older actor. He is trying to teach other people how to act in a class. It's very funny. And there's a love interest too. I can't remember her name. She's actually from Massachusetts. Oh, I wrote it down, but I can't read it because I wrote it down fast. Yeah. But she was Tim Allen's wife on Tim Allen's last TV show. I just can't remember her name.
Not Home Improvement, right?
Not Home Improvement, the one after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I just and then Age of Ultron. Ultron was who? James Spader.
Oh yeah, James Spader.
James Spader is awesome. I grew up watching him on Tough Enough, Pretty in Pink, and just recently, a show that just got canceled, unfortunately, but it was very dark, was The Blacklist.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, the crime show.
Yes, I've heard of it. I think I saw one episode. It's very dark, but really good. Yeah. But I grew up watching James Spader. James Spader was part of the Brat Pack.
I like Stargate actually too. I thought that was a really
he's fabulous, but he's a great. I mean, even in Pretty in Pink, he's a villain. If you could say villain in Pretty in Pink. Yeah. With Molly Ringwald and John Cryer.
John Cryer.
Yeah, he's the villain in this. He's the bad guy. He's the cool rich kid. So I love the fact that they're taking these, I guess you would say older actors, I guess, in some cases, and throwing them in there as villains. Now, that might be one of the reasons why you would watch a movie like that. I did not know that those guys were in those movies that I watched until I saw the movie.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't look it up. I'm not supposed to, so I can't look it up because so Connor will, my daughter will have my head. But it's one of those things where I didn't know, and then it was, oh, wait a minute, that's James Spader. Cool. And I love watching him and stuff, and it's so weird watching him as that kind of villain in the Marvel movie. So. That's kind of what my take is. But my question to you before is that do the comic books kind of relate? And I'm not sure if you kind of read all the comic books, but do they relate to the movies? And you're saying that they're kind of different, that the movies are, movies are always different than books because you have to for the obviously you make a movie. You make a movie to make money. You make a movie because you love it and you love the entertainment factor. And it's all entertainment. That's what it is.
Exactly.
You also do it to make money. That's your job. You do it to make money. But so you have to have these characters in there. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you put James Spader, who's been on the blacklist? Why wouldn't you put Michael Keaton in a movie? He was Batman. I mean, why wouldn't you put Jeff Goldblum is on commercials? You gotta put him on. Everybody's seen this guy.
Yeah.
And even Michael Douglas, who's been in some movies just recently, including like Wall Street 2 or whatever it was. I did see it, but the second Wall Street. Yeah. So it's one of those things. Why wouldn't you put these guys in? You put them in because of that. But you're saying that the comic books are a little different.
Yeah, a little bit. Like they took certain aspects. They even took some design choices too, like the costumes they kind of like, that's what I'm very interested in the movies, the way they do the costumes too. It's like, it is pretty comic book accurate, but because they're movies, because it's a very different medium than comics, and comics have had so many different iterations of the costumes that the heroes wear. What the movies try to do is kind of like, making those costumes, but like, how do they look in real life? Kind of like what some of like the other DC movies, like Batman with Christopher Nolan. So sometimes they'll actually take liberties in certain ways. So they'll be like, okay, Thor's gonna have the cape like and the hammer like he does in the comics, but
so let me ask you a question. It's kind of crazy. Ready for this crazy question?
All right.
Do you like long-haired Thor or short-haired Thor?
I actually like the short hair better.
No, my daughter, when she liked short-haired Thor because she thinks he looks cute. Like, okay, Dad does not need to hear this at all, like ever. But she said, I like short-haired Thor. I thought he looked older when he had the short hair. When he's got the long hair, he kind of looks like, he's from the 70s. He's kind of like Fabio. So I think it's
like a Dolph Lundgren He-Man vibe.
Yeah, exactly. This big guy with a hammer that nobody else can pick up but him.
Yeah.
I was super sad when his sister just grabbed the hammer and just broke it. And I'm sorry to spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched it yet, but that really, I was like, oh no. Thor, can you put that back together?
Nah. Hot take. I actually kind of liked it because I like the idea of like that the whole movie had. And sorry, this is another spoiler too, mind you.
Oh, go ahead.
I liked that. Like because the whole time in the movies, like you see Thor, like he relies so much on the hammer to like take him around. He always has to be like dragged by it. But I liked actually that he found his power within him. I thought that was cool. Like he came in like with the Led Zeppelin music blaring in the background. He's just like blasting.
The Led Zeppelin music was awesome, by the way. That was very. Was it Led Zeppelin or AC/DC? I thought it was AC/DC.
Led Zeppelin.
Oh, was it Zeppelin? Okay.
It was Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Right. No, that's great.
Movie.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. And I think he had an issue with that. I think he had an issue, and this is just kind of a backstory for me when I look at it. And again, I look at these logically. I don't necessarily get too emotional about it, but I look at it logically, and I can almost tell what's going to happen next. So many movies. Sometimes I can predict it. Sometimes I'll say, Alana, pause this. So my feeling is that this is what's going to happen, and this is what I'm not telling you it's right or wrong, and you don't have to tell me what it's right or wrong, but that's what I think. Okay. I kind of look at these a little bit more logically than anything else. I think logically, his psychology is that he had to. It was almost like a crutch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was almost like that hammer was a crutch.
Yes.
And he knew his father was gone. And he knew he hated his sister. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that you're right. He had to find the power that he already had. The power's not in the hammer. Power's in here.
Yeah.
Power's always in him.
Mm-hmm.
He was relying on the hammer all the time before before the incident that she crushed him. But he had to find that power. And you kind of knew that toward the end of that movie that he was going to find it.
Yeah,
He
definitely.
was going to find it. And when he did, you were like, oh yeah, there it is. Oh, you're in trouble now, girlie. You're in trouble now because this ain't good. This is not good. He's got power. And I actually think he's got more power within him. And I'm not sure if they looked at this logically. More power in him than I think the Hammer actually has.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Yeah. Yeah.
The Hammer has certain power, but I think that himself, just inside him, he has more of that power. You almost could tell that his father gave it to him too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, probably. And also like telling him like, you saw how he held his own against the Hulk, and he didn't even really have the hammer. I mean, still, because that was at the point when he fought sorry, no spoiler alert.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's what we talk about on the show, man. So go ahead.
It's great. That's what was so cool about like when he fought the Hulk. The Hulk is one of the strongest, like physically strongest heroes in the whole team. But when he fought him, he like just lightning punched him into the air, which is like, whoa, okay, hold on. So that's a lot of power there.
Yes. And you could tell that he had that power when he was fighting too. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't like to see, I guess, in my opinion, I don't like to see the good guys fighting each other, but I understand that sometimes you got to, because sometimes you have to, and it makes sense that all of a sudden the Hulk turns David Banner because he's got his own issue.
Yeah.
And you can just tell he's got his own issue. And I watched the original TV series. So the original TV series with Ferrigno, and just, you knew, it's kind of like you knew he was going to get angry. Yeah. But he was there to save people. And I'm not sure if he understood that he was saving people. Maybe he did. Mm-hmm. But it was more or less that I thought that it was very predictable. And I liked the TV show, but I didn't like the TV show. Because the TV show was kind of like, oh, okay, so there's going to be a bad guy. They're going to rob a bank. And then David Banner's going to be in the bank. They're going to smash him on the head. They're going to put him in the vault. They're going to put everybody in the vault. He's going to get angry because he got hit in the head. He's going to get up. He's going to start turning, his eyes are going to start turning green. He's going to turn green. He's going to turn into the Hulk. He's going to bang on that door and get out. And that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
I think it's kind of predictable in that respect. But I think what it comes down to is when it comes to movies, I like the fact that they're bringing characters, they're bringing bad guys in that are kind of these. They're not old fogey actors. They're really not.
Yeah.
They're actually seasoned. I guess I could say seasoned. They're seasoned actors that play the parts really super well. And I think they're a draw too. Guaranteed. If you knew Michael Keaton who was in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, you're a Michael Keaton fan, guess what? You're going to go see the movie to check him out, see what he does.
Right.
He plays a great villain too.
So
freaking good. Phenomenal in that. That was great. And the car scene, him in the car with the kid, that was hilarious. That was great. I mean, just that kind of introduction to Spider-Man was really good. I'm certainly looking forward to the next couple of movies, and of course, looking forward to talking more about this stuff, because it's really super interesting. But I like the fact that we can kind of relate it to movies and relate it to other movies and the past. And you did some comic booking and I watched the Super Friends and that kind of thing, because that's kind of started this whole process of kind of what we're doing. I do want to ask a question out there, because our time is almost up here on our first inaugural show. Just want to tell you that I'll say it again that we are we are. And today's episode is brought to you by Simon Organizing. So, and we're going to have a link on our page, on our new channel, that we're going to throw on there that you can click that link and you can go right to that Simon Organizing page, and we thank them for everything that they do, organizing wise. And I do have a question that I'd like to ask everybody. This will be the question, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to, if we can, I'd like to be able to post that question maybe in that same, if you can ask a question on that link. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But my question is what is everybody's favorite Marvel movie? So that's what we're going to kind of end with right now. I want to know, I guess I've only seen up to, and I'll tell you, I've only seen up to Thor Ragnarok. So I have a section of movies that I can talk about, I can be a favorite of. But again, I haven't seen the whole series yet. So and again, there's more new ones coming out all the time. So, and we have a lot to talk about on our next show. So what is your favorite movie, Kyle? Favorite Marvel movie as of today?
Oh my God, favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah, that's difficult. You could bring up a couple of them if you want. That's fine.
All right. Okay, so maybe I'll maybe I'll do it like this.
You're all choked up. I didn't need to ask you a question. Oh my God, I can't believe you asked me that question. Oh,
Marvel. Oh no. So I would say favorite movie from the cinematic universe. I actually, this might be a bit of a surprise. So just from the cinematic universe, not counting other Marvel movies that came out in like 2000s or whatever. Early
yeah, that's fine.
I would say Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Really?
Yeah, and the main reason is because I love. So I don't know if you guys knew, and maybe we'll get into this in another episode. I'm a huge James Bond fan. I love spy movies.
I am too. We got to talk about James Bond next episode, man.
Yes, definitely. We can go all in on that one.
Oh yeah. We're definitely spending some time on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know we could. That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down to.
Oh yeah. That might be most of the episode. Although I'd like to talk about the next the maybe 2 movies that I'm going to see next. Yeah, definitely.
Together.
Yeah, definitely. So James Bond for you.
So I just love spy movies. James Bond has always been one of my favorite spy movie series, obviously, and I love Mission Impossible. I love even like more slow burn movies like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is another, I'd say it's a very good thinking type of movie if you really like that, because it's a very involved story. It's very like, whoa, like you have to watch the movie several times to really kind of get every beat of it. But so I think I like Winter Soldier. Now, granted, I can't really compare Winter Soldier to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy because they're different movies. They're not even in the same realm of movie, to be honest. But I like that they kind of took it to like a spy thriller vibe, and I liked just so much about it. I liked Robert Redford. I thought he was a great character in that movie. Like he was one of the more memorable characters actually of that.
Yeah.
And also, of course, I like the Winter Soldier character, which, as we all know, we know who that is, right? Once we find out all that. I like that whole conflict. I like the way they used Black Widow and Nick Fury in it. Like, and I liked how it was like it was kind of how a character like Captain America, he was such an icon back in like the 40s when he was like, when he was like processed into the super soldier. How he is in the modern day. I thought the movie did a great job at that.
And the guy fell asleep for 70 years.
Yeah, right? So it's like, how do you connect the ideals of like, like a guy like him from the 40s? Like, how do you connect that to like the present day? And how does he adjust to like how different it is? I just love the way the movie tackled that. I love that. So that to me, that's why that movie is probably my favorite of the MCU movies. for the non-MCU movies, I'm gonna have to say X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm also a huge sucker for time travel movies. I love Terminator.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Back to the Future. That movie. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the X-Men movies, Doug, with Hugh Jackman and all that.
I think I saw one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw maybe the first one.
Yeah, the one when it first came out in 2000. So that's a whole other series that you can get into too. It's very different than the MCU. The whole tone and everything. It's a bit darker. They definitely have more like deep themes going on there. But Days of Future Past to me that was kind of like the Avengers Infinity War / Endgame of the X-Men universe, because they did such a brilliant job of like, you have the present day cast, which is like Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, all their characters from like the original trilogy, they merged with the characters from the prequel movie, which is X-Men First Class, which is you had Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy. It was a huge ensemble movie, and it was amazing. It was blow your socks off, just like, whoa, like just the way the future looked. It was so dark, and robots were there, and they had to go back they had to send Wolverine back in the 70s and to stop the whole robot apocalypse so he can, it was just bonkers. I loved every second of it. It was such a great time travel movie. To me, that's probably that's another favorite of mine. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to ask a question to the people, not just to the people out there, but we should post the question too if we can on YouTube, and that's what we'll do from now on. We'll post a question once a week, and we'll ask that question, and we'll get the answer from both of us, and then we'll it could be about anything. It could be about either Marvel or the movies or anything. So we'll do that. We'll post the question, and when you see the episode, you can all obviously comment, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But my favorite, it's so difficult. I mean, I love the characters and stuff like that. I really think right now, my favorite is the last movie that I saw right now. And again,
Ragnarok?
Yes.
Nice.
Thor Ragnarok is my favorite. The reason I think it's my favorite is because it's just funny. I'm humorous, so I love comedy movies. So this had pretty much like everything. It had everything. You name it. It had a little blood and guts. It had comedy throughout the whole movie. I thought Spider-Man: Homecoming was funny, and I love Michael Keaton. But this one, Thor Ragnarok, I thought was very funny, and I also thought that just the cast itself, the evil sister was fabulous. Is it Gork, the stone guy? The stone guy, was it Gork? Was his name Gork?
It was Korg or
Korg, yeah, Korg.
Korg, yeah, I forget.
Korg, yeah, Korg. He was hilarious. I loved him. I thought that the way they he's like, hey, I'm made of rock. Yeah, I'm made of all rock. Yeah, that's what I do. I thought it was phenomenal. It was awesome. So that's my favorite up to this point.
Okay.
Up to this point. Now I got a whole bunch of movies. I got 6 in the series to watch so far, and then we move to whatever's next. But I got some pretty intense movies coming up, which I'm very much looking forward to. So we have a super amount to talk about next week. I want to. We just did our inaugural episode. This is awesome. This is great. Look for us on YouTube. I think we're going to, I don't know whether I know that we have some other shows. Please watch On the Couch Talking Sports with Robbie and Kyle.
And Sports Blitz with Doug and Robbie.
Sports Blitz with Doug and Robbie, with me and Robbie. Definitely watch those guys. And now we have we have our new one, Marvel at the Movies, our inaugural episode. So in our next episodes, we're gonna continue to talk Marvel. We're gonna continue to, we're gonna continue to talk Marvel and movies and relate them and unrelate them. We're gonna have some guests down the road. We're already trying to start to set up some guests down the road. Some Marvel experts, I think. So we'll have to see about that. So what social media are we going to be on? I'm going to put this on Facebook, but we're going to discuss what social media. We're definitely on YouTube. We're going to figure it out, and then the next episode we'll kind of give you an idea of where we're at and what we're on.
Yeah, as they say.
Yeah, and again, please, when you see the episode, subscribe, hit the bell. Look for some production down the road from this guy over here, the Mr. Production, the expert. Gonna put together, hopefully, we're gonna put together an intro and make our show look really good. And so we got some really great things down the road. Unplug my thing here. Look for some great things down the road. And I certainly look forward to it. Thank you so much, Kyle. I had a fun time tonight.
That was awesome.
Look forward to our next episode of Marvel at the Movies. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right. Stop video. Just make sure I got that.
Stop video? Are we stopping a video?
I think that's it. Oh, wait. Sorry, hold on. Where's the recording?
Wait, are we stopping the video?
Stop.